So I'm going to have to make sure I check that. Apologies. Hello everyone, let's start again, shall we? Unless you can lip read. Hello Maxie, hello Carol, hello Deb, hello Tricia, hello Gemma, hello Linda, Kim. Have I missed anyone? All sorted. Brilliant. Hope you're all well. Thank you for sharing your makes from last week's tutorial in our beaders group, Beaders of Beads by Vachil. It was so lovely to see it so well received, and I think it really stands to show that it doesn't have to be a complex design for it to look wonderful and for you to enjoy it as well. So hopefully that tonight's tutorial isn't any exception to that. Hello Paula, lovely to have you join. So let's get straight into it. I'll go on the overhead. As before, what I'd really love you to do is to bounce some ideas. So if you're looking at the tutorial and you think that would make a really nice X, Y, Z, share it in the comments, because that's what I really love, is the fact that how flexible can we make the design that we do every week? What other things can we use it for? Now, because they're relatively quick projects, I'm hoping I'm going to be able to do something that I've got in my mind that I haven't done before. So let's just see how we go with it, shall we? Now let's go on the overhead. There we go. This time I remembered to flip it over so that it's actually, I think, the right side. I'm not so sure now. No, it's not. Bear with. Right, let's try that. That's it. That's correct now. It really confuses me when there's a mirror image. Hello Annette, hello Kelly. Kelly is new to the group. It's lovely to have you join. A very big welcome. It's a lovely group, really friendly, so feel free to share what you love making. Now in the thread as well, I've strung some gemstone chips in different combinations that I thought would look really nice in this design. So we've got sort of aquamarine, citrine, amazonite, rose quartz. The one I'm going to work on tonight, because I think it'll stand out a little bit better in the actual videoing, is the one with labradorite, red agate, moss agate and unakite. So we've got two projects on the go tonight. One is doing the V dangle, which you can also make into a pendant, and the other one is to actually make your own head pins using 0.8mm wire and making a nice decorative little turn at the bottom. So on that note, I think we'll start with these, and they're relatively straightforward. However, there's a few little tips to give you along the way to make your life a little bit easier. So I will be giving you some hints and tips as we go. So I think let's just do the moss agate and the red agate, because I think the colours just pop so lovely on that. Oh, that's lovely. Everybody, like I say, everybody's so welcome. Right. Now, it doesn't really matter what design you do. What you do need to check, I'm actually saving a little bit of wire by threading it straight onto the coil of wire, or the reel of wire. And you just need to make sure that the size hole of the gemstone chips actually fits on, because there are some tiny chips that will also have very tiny holes to go with it. Now, if you bought the gemstone bead box in Create and Craft the other week, these are the same hole size, so you won't have a problem with those. You might want to take a little bit of time if you're quite a symmetrical person. You might want to take a little bit of time to marry up on the earrings, the sizes of chips. Does that make sense? So that's what I've got. I love the fact that you've got different tone moss agate. So before I do anything else, rather than cut it, I'm going to actually make the little loopies at the bottom. So let's put these out the way. Now for that, what you're going to need is a round nose plier. And at the bottom, we're going to actually do a loop. Deb says she can't do random, always have to match. I do think it's important for it to have a good old match though, doesn't it? Especially if you're selling them, because most people like it to be balanced, don't they? Now, top tip, I've done a circle. It seems strange to do this, but it really works. Go back in and just trim off a little bit of the circle. Like so, and then coil it back. Now you could question, why on earth have I done that? I've actually done that because for some reason it seems to actually get a much better circle. Now if you want it a little bit smaller, you can just give that a squeeze. Now the bit that most people find really difficult is when you actually clamp this, it doesn't always coil for people. So this is how I start. Clamp over most of it. Don't hack at it though, because this is silver plate we're working on. And just gentle movements. Keep moving your pliers around. So as you can see, not a lot has happened there, but that's okay. Just take your time and a little bit of a snail coil. And it's up to you how many coils you want to do. I actually think that's enough for an earring. You don't want anything too big. If you want it smaller, just use further to the ends of your round nose pliers. Now some of you might have these pliers that you've got in your stash and perhaps you're not sure what to do with them. Well, these are bail making, and you can actually turn the loop on one of these as well. So if you actually want to make sure that you've got the loops the same size, they're really handy. So I will actually demonstrate those so that you know sort of what I'm on about. Now we'll shimmy that down the end, and because we want that sat quite nicely, I've just bent that a little bit. Now this is the same principle as making ordinary earrings. Now I eyeball it because I've done it that many times. If you're just starting, you might want to get your tape measure out and measure 1 centimetre from the top of the bead to where you're going to cut. Hold with your non-dominant hand your beads so they don't shoot everywhere. So that's what we've got so far. This is where you need some other pliers. So we're going to go back to our chain nose. Now you don't have to have them bent. They could be just flat like this. I just like to use the bent ones because they work well for me. So make sure there's a little bit, can you see there's a tiny gap between where I'm positioning the pliers and the bead. The reason for that is what you don't want to do is crack your beads, so you need that little bit of distance. So we're going to turn that at almost a 90-degree angle, and you don't need to get your measuring out for that. You don't need your maths tools out for that. Now just bear in mind this is a bit like knitting and crochet in the sense that we're going to have different tensions. So some of you may need to cut less, some of you need to cut more, depending on the size of the loop. Now what you could always do is, if you want to put a black marker pen where you actually put in your wire so that they actually are the same size loops. So pop it in your round nose pliers. Make sure you don't have any excess wire sticking out, because you'll get a little burr on the end. On your non-dominant hand, just hug those beads and start turning. Okay, so we've done a little bit. You don't have to do it in one movement. And then we're going to start now. As you can see, as we're starting to turn, I'm going to slide my wire to the closer to the tip of the pliers, and that just helps me to get a more distinct loop. Now don't worry if it's a bit bent, because the power of the pliers is pretty amazing, and it's pretty soft wire as well. So that's what we've got so far. Paula, thank you. Paula says that's very clever and looks very pretty. I mean, it's very rustic, but that's what gemstone chips are all about. And I just think there's just such amazing colours. Now, you can, on these earring hooks, obviously there's lots of different types of earrings that you can buy. These are shepherd's hooks, they're also called as well. Now you can open them at the bottom here, but I always prefer, if you can, to open them on here, because you see that little ball thing there, when you open it, it seems to drop down and get in the way. So with my pliers, I'm just going to make a little movement just to lift that up. So you're still keeping the shape, but you've opened it up. So you hook that in and just return that. Now you need to make sure that you've got a good sort of connection between both of those metals so that it doesn't come off. So that's the one. Let's do that again so that you can see. And if you find that it's not sitting round the right way for when it goes in your ear, you know, you can hold a pair of pliers one end and just twist it with your hands, or your pliers the other. So Kelly is looking forward to trying gemstone chips. Never used them before. They look so beautiful and delicate. They really, really are. And you can get the most amazing, amazing colours. So just bear in mind, okay, that I really would spend more time getting a match on these beads, but I'm always conscious when I'm demonstrating that I'll try and match it as best I can. But you know, you don't want to watch me faffing, do you? I'm good at faffing. Now I want one that matches that colour a little bit. Oh, that's labradorite, wrong one. Right, where's the hole? There it is. There we go. So to actually save on wire, if you can, add it on while it's still attached to the reel. Just a recap on that. Now, if you were using the bail pliers, there's different sizes on each side. I don't know if you could see that. So that side's smaller than that side. So with the bail pliers, you just use it in the same way. You'd make sure it's flush, and you just turn it round like so. They're not necessary, but a lot of people have these tools in their kits and perhaps they're not sure what to do with them, or they've never tried them. Now I would actually make sure that you actually, can you see that my pliers are not that way, they're that way? Because if I do it the other way, you'll create a little bit of a burr by actually cutting it that way. I hope that makes sense. That's just the way the pliers are made. So we're just cutting that just bringing that in like so, and have a quick look at the other one just to make sure that they are roughly the same size. Now let's use this time with just the ordinary chain nose pliers. So we're going to clamp it. Great tip about cutting the wire. Oh yes, it just helps so much. It really does. And make it look so simple. Thank you. Oh, Linda, that sounds lush. She's going to get... Oh, I'm so dim. Do you know what I was thinking? This is just how my mind works, is I was just thinking fish and chips. Honestly, I'm talking about chips. Linda said she's going to get her chips out in a minute, and I'm thinking, oh, I could just taste some chips from the fish and chip shop. That wasn't the sort of chips that Linda was on about. Oh, honestly, Oh, Kim says don't let them burn and overcook. Oh dear, I'm glad it wasn't just me, but I think Kim did actually get that. Now, it's actually marred a little bit, the wire on here. Now, there's a couple of ways you can get over that. You can either chop it off and start again. If you find that your pliers are making a mar, then pop some masking tape over the pliers to help stop marking your wire. Or you can actually get out what they call a planishing hammer, which is a metal hammer, and you can actually texture it. So, food for thought. Right. Let's just make sure they match okay. And the other thing to think about is, do you want both of them going the same way? Personally, I'd have one going out one way, one going out the other, if that makes sense. And I'm referring to the loop. I'm thinking about chips now. Now I've cut that a little bit shorter. That wasn't a good idea. So I've turned it at almost a right angle. I'm popping on my looping pliers, making sure it's flush, and turning that loop. There we go. So let's get the other one. Now, I like the fact that that one is facing that way and this one is facing the other way. Does that make sense? So I need another earring hook. I haven't had my dinner yet, can you tell? I don't fancy what I got for dinner now. I got a chicken casserole. That's far healthier, isn't it, than chips? Right, so for this one, I'm going to actually turn that so it faces the other way. So there we go. That's your pair of loopity loops. And those are the ones with the amethyst and the rose quartz. Let me just have a quick look at your comments. I'm glad it's not just me that think chips. I think you're all being polite, making you all hungry. Oh, the question is, salt and vinegar or no salt and vinegar? For me, it's got to be salt and vinegar. Oh, she had cottage pie tonight with cheesy mash on top. Lovely. Great tip about hammering. I hadn't thought, and often redo items due to marking the wire. And that's just literally a little tap on metal. You know, if you've got an anvil, a mini anvil, or a metal plate, that works best. I'm glad you like them. Just salt for you, Linda, just salt. Right, let's go and look at the other ones now. Oh, right, let's put those to one side. And now most of you have probably heard of something called eyepins, okay? Now, again, I don't know who calls them eyepins. I think that's quite a good name for it. Now, with eyepins, this is what they look like. So they've got your preformed loop at the bottom, and you form the loop the other end. So what I've done with this design is I've used 3 eye pins to make this V shape on them. Now, I was thinking of some other designs as well. Now, most of them will be slightly bent, but to be honest, it's not a problem, because you can just, most of it gets cut off anyway, you know, you don't use all of it. If you've got large parts left, you can just save them and reuse them. And that feels a bit thick. If you've got any straightening pliers, you could always straighten them that way. So let's do some slightly different colours this time. So we've got labradorite, we've got some unikite. I think that's quite nice actually, just a bit of labradorite and unikite. I think we should put some, let's have a little mix, shall we? Right, I don't know why I put so many out. I like to have a choice. Do you like to have a choice? I am terrible. I'm not the tidiest of workers, because it blocks my creativity and I'm sticking to it. Right, now that was, you know, I mentioned to you earlier about the fact that sometimes your wires don't always fit in the gemstone chips. That's one of them, but for some reason the ones I picked up, the eye pins, are really thick. Let's see if I've got a thinner one. Right, there's a couple of ways you can get round that. If you find that you've got eye pins that don't fit onto the gemstones, that one does, is you can make your own. You can make your own by turning that loop like I showed you with a finer wire. So just bear that in mind. Oh, I'm glad you're messy. I am so pleased that we've got some other messy workers. And then I do have to tidy up before I start another one. So what have we got? Let's put a bit of the moss on there as well. Obviously you can make it as wide or short as you wish. The thing is, I know some people just get out exactly what they need. My brain doesn't work like that. My brain is, well, I want to actually see what I've got, and then I make a decision after I've looked at a couple of different combinations. But everybody's different. Just let me know how you work. There you go. So we've got unikite, labradorite, red agate and moss agate. Right, let's pop some of these bits away for now. Now, I've actually done a tutorial before on something similar with a pendant that I will show you in a second, but let's finish this one off first of all. Maxine is having a good laugh because she rarely finishes items, so you can imagine what a mess my craft room is in. It's a work in progress. It's a work in progress. Right, you know how we did before? We cut a centimetre from above the last bead. If you're in company, either hold on to it or pop it in your bead mat, because they really do take quite a flight. Now that's definitely not a centimetre, but we'll work with it. You can learn from my mistakes. So turn it at an angle. Hello Wendy. And make sure it's flush. You don't have to do. The other tip I'd say as well is when I'm teaching, I see a lot of people put their whole arm into turning these loops. Small, smooth movements. Use the strength from your wrist and your hand, not your arm, because what you'll do is you'll just buckle it. So we've got 2 holes either side. Let's just roll that so that you can see. And then if we look at this one, you want to actually attach them so that you have one either side. Now there's no reason why you couldn't have the gemstones going up on these as well. Let's keep it plain on this one. Let's keep it simple. So we're going to open the eye pin on one side and attach it to that one. Just close that up. Sorry, make sure I'm on camera, so that there's no risk of it coming undone. So I just lift it and reposition it, give it a squidge over the technical term, over the opening. Do the same the other side. Now what you could always do, a little top tip, to make sure that the lengths are the same, you could always trim it so that both lengths are the same before you attach it. And you could do that on both of them. So I'm going to actually eyeball this. So I'm going to make this one a wee bit smaller. So you've got to allow for a centimetre. Yes, do you know, that's what I had in my mind. Deb was saying you could have a gemstone in the middle. Is in my mind I was ticking around with exactly the same thing. Now, normally you turn at an angle, but at the top I am literally just going to turn the loop, like so. You could always cut it again as well if you want it a little bit rounder. Do the same on this side, and like I say, if you're very particular about size, you could always draw a little mark on where you're actually turning the loops. Now one is slightly smaller than the other, so I'm just going to open that one up and then I'm going to have a little jump ring. Now the jump rings I'm working with are quite tiny because I don't want anything bulky. So what I'd suggest you do is open the jump ring. If you've never opened jump rings before, you need 2 sets of pliers, either flat nose or chain nose. Don't use your looping pliers because they just basically mark the wire. So these are called open jump rings. So the slit I'm holding at 12 o'clock, I'm covering just under half of it on one side with flat nose. That's with my non-dominant hand, and with my dominant hand I'm actually just going to turn it so that it opens. And this is a wee bit fiddly. There we go. And what you could do before you close it up is actually pop your earring hook. So let me just turn that to one side so you can see. So what I've done is I've attached both of those. I'm going to put it round the other way because I like the loops at the back. There we go. And then we're going to close that. So just gently bring it back. so it's like a rocking action. And there you have your very cute, I think that you need to maybe straighten that out just a wee bit at the top, but that would make a really nice pendant as well. So there's a couple of different combinations we could do. So let's do another one, but let's look at, you know, maybe putting a little dangle in the middle. How would that work? What would you use for it? So let's do that one with a slight variation. And like I say, you can make your own eye pins as well. We'll try actually cutting them all the same length as well. You know, the top parts, we'll try making those the same length so that we can see if it makes our lives a little bit easier. Whoops, I'm just straightening these out. There's eye pins available in the thread as well as earring hooks as well. Now always make sure that your eye pin is closed properly, because it's not always a given. So these aren't really going to match to the other ones, but I just want to give you an idea of what sort of combinations you could use. Now Wendy said, could you use chain for the bits that attach to the earring loop? I love that idea, Wendy. I think that is brilliant. So what Wendy's saying is, rather than having these eye pins here, is can you use chain? Now I think that's a super suggestion, and that's what I love is, you know, we all have a different vision, and out of that comes something always very lovely. So don't be frightened to, you know, even if it is me with my chips, fish and chips, don't be frightened to say what comes to mind. We do have a few rude moments sometimes as well. Normally when you see me going to fits of giggles, it's normally either Kim, Linda or Francis that get me into botheration. Yeah, I know I do that all of my own, don't I? I don't really need any help. That is so true. Right, so we're going to cut it so it's about 1 centimetre from the end. Now, if you've got really long ones left, just save them and make them into eye pins. Okay? Turn it at an angle. Where's my looping ply? Oh, there they are. Yes, Linda, you're very innocent. I don't really need leading astray, to be fair, do I? The other thing as well is you need to make sure on this one that the loops are both parallel with each other for it to sit well. Now let's try actually cutting these to the right size that you want before we attach them. Straighten those up a bit. So shocking blaming us. Oh, I know. But like I said, I don't really need a lot of encouragement, do I? And talking of those lovely ladies, we are doing a Facebook Live together in our Beaders group, Beaders of Beads by Vachil, and we do enjoy doing a live together. So we are we've got some ideas up our sleeve as to what we're going to do, but if you have any ideas as to what you might like us to talk about, then do let us know. Now, the other things you could always do is, I'm just wondering, I don't know if these seed beads will fit on. Let's have a look. Oh, they will. So you could always pop some seed beads on there. We have a lovely little Wednesday evening. We have a little team gathering on Zoom on a Wednesday, and there's never a dull moment. And I must admit, I feel so fortunate to have their support. It really is lovely. There you go. That's all right, isn't it? So I'm just kind of making this up as I go along. It's knowing how far to go with those beads. Let's turn that loop. Well, likewise, Linda, I feel so lucky. You know, we've not all even met each other yet. And on that fine note, we've got a little group gathering coming up soon. So you've got to save the date. We're all going to have, if you're local, not necessarily local, but, you know, if you're within a drivable distance, we've got a nice little get-together in May. The room is booked. You bring your packed lunch. Gonna have some cake. Gonna do some beading. Gonna do a demonstration, and have a really nice social gathering. So we shall be sharing some more details on that very soon. But I can't wait. Right, I think one more. I've not done this before in terms of this style, but I'm always quite happy to make mistakes online. I'm not saying it's going to be a mistake, but I think it's also good to share how designs come out of my head. Sometimes they don't, and I'm sure we're all the same, is sometimes when you're under pressure, it doesn't always flow quite so well. I quite like that. Now, we'll do something else as well. Now, I'm not sure if this is a little bit, that's a bit too big, but that's cute. Isn't that cute, that little elephant? That really is too big. So this is where we're going to switch to something called head pins. If you've never heard of head pins before, head pins have got a flat bottom to them, but you work them in the same way as an eye pin. So I think we'll have a nice bold colour at the bottom. So this one's going to go in the middle. What I'm not sure about is whether or not we just have a couple of these or just one. Is it the 20th? Thank you for that. I'm in Royal Wootton Bassett, and that's where we've actually got the venue. And we've got 4 hours booked. And I can't wait. And you can bring a friend with you. They don't, you know, they don't even have to be beaders. Now, that, to me, there's too much on that. Too much. It distorts the design. That is more doable. And I might put a few seed beads on the top so that it dangles a bit further down. There we go. Let's try that. So I'm going to cut. Oh, Deb, you're on holiday. Oh. Well, if it's, you know, if it's proved popular and it's something that people would like to do moving forward, then we'll do more. Right, okay. Now, let's get the jump ring. I mean, this is a bit different. I've got some other designs to show you as well. I think it's really a case of playing. I mean, you might just want a plain crystal in there. It might be a bit too fussy for you. But one thing that I think for those of you that make to sell, one thing that we've all discovered is, do you know what? You've just got to sell different things, because what we think goes isn't always the case, is it? Right, bear with me. 1, 2. This is where it's a bit of a juggle, getting everything on. You might want a bigger jump ring because you're holding quite a few bits. That's really cute. I like that. It is each to their own. I'd lose a seed bead if you do a dangle. The only thing with the seed bead is I was just thinking that I don't know whether or not it would sit flush. I'm not sure is the answer. I'm not sure. I think the concept's nice, but I would probably take that off. Let's take that off and try another one, shall we? Any ideas? Any ideas? Just one? Thoughts? I think I actually prefer that as it is. But I'm going to try another one so that we can just have a fiddle. That's kind of sweet, because I suppose it doesn't even matter if you have some of the head pins showing. Yeah, I do as well, but I'm having a play. I'm having a play just to see what would it look like if we just had a single dangle. How would it sit? This is going to be interesting. Oh, what I could do is I could actually attach another jump ring. But have a play with the designs, you know, see where the design takes you. So let's pop that on a ring, and there we go. I agree, Linda. I think that dropping the seed bead works better if that's what you want to do. So here we go. Here's a couple of the designs that we've just done. So you've got plain, you've got with seed beads with a dangle, and again you've got plain but a larger one. Now I mentioned to you that there was some other designs that we did, and just really going on from what Deb's mentioned as well is making dangles at the bottom. Now let's just move this out the way. Now this is one I did a tutorial on last year. Now whilst it's not gemstone chips, I actually thought that you could use the same concept with this one. So just talking you through how I've actually done this is, if you want a longer eye pin, you might need to make your own. They might not have one long enough, but I've actually made the eye pins. So I've got one a longer length here, and then I've married up the lengths either side so that you've got a V, and on the bottom I've used head pins with little crystals. So when they've been made, I then stack them onto this main head pin here, and I've got a seed bead that separates each of them. So a seed bead, thread on the eye pin, seed bead, thread on the eye pin. So that's the design I've gone for with that. And I've done the eye pins as the chain, and I've actually added chain into that as well, and a little bit more detail at the top. So, you know, how are we doing for time? We haven't really got long enough to do that. I'll see if I can actually find the tutorial, but I thought, do you know what, if you've got the lengths right, there's no reason why you couldn't actually use gemstone chips for this design as well. Now, that's a great question, Paula. Can you get other colour eye pins? Now, I haven't seen any, but the best thing to do would be to buy coloured wire and make your own. So by making your own, what you would do is, so for example, I've got rose gold wire, so you could use the rose gold. So you would just turn a loop, the one end, like so, and then you make your eye pin yourself. You'd cut it one end. I'd use 0.8mm wire, or if you've got really fine beads, use 0.7 or 0.6. Thread your beads on and do it the same the other way. And you can buy coloured wires easily available online. So let's just go off the overhead. I'm going to hold up the bits so that you can actually see what they look like front facing. But before we do that, I just want to have a quick look through, because I think I've missed some of your comments along the way. Trisha also said you could use coloured wire to make your own eye pins, but the earring hooks would not match. Do you know what? You could make your own earring hooks, and I can show you how to do that now. But just make sure that you finish them off properly, because with it going into your ear. But I can show you how to do that, as we've got 10 minutes left. Just running through your comments. Yeah, we're getting a lot of love with the plain design. I agree. I totally agree. I think it's just like you say, it's whatever suits you. If you want a dangle, I think the bottom part of the triangle would need to be bigger. True enough. True enough. You could also have a dangle from in between as well if you wanted to. Kelly is off to walk her pups. Oh, no problem, and thank you for joining us. How about a dangle from the bottom of the triangle when you have the seed beads? I think we covered that one, didn't we? What size wire? We've covered that. Hello, Betsy. Don't worry, no problem. Well, let's just show you front facing what these look like. So we've got these really lovely earthy colours. There we go, that's a bit better, isn't it? And then we did one. Hello, Francis, don't worry, it's no problem. I know you're a busy lady. So we did one with seed beads and a dangle, one without. And then I showed you this one that I did in a tutorial a little while back. I'll see if I can find it. Now, I've got time to just show you how to make some earring wires. So let's just tidy this up. Now, this is particularly useful if you want to do it with sterling silver wire. Now, I was taught to do this when I used to go to silversmithing classes, and you would need to invest really in some sandpaper. The wet dry sandpaper is actually really good. I'll see if I can remember how to do it now. Right, let's go on the overhead. There we go. So I would use 0.8 wire again. Now I'm going to just cut, this is a bit wasty, but there you go. I'm going to cut 2 lengths of wire, and so that they match, I'm going to do it both at the same time. Now this is where it comes in quite handy to have the bail pliers. Now what else could you use? I suppose you could just use the largest part of your round nose pliers. That's food for thought. Pencil. You could use a pencil. So I'm actually going to wrap that round like so. Now there's something I missed to begin with, which is actually doing a loop at the front. Let's turn a loop at the front first. Much better idea to do that. I'm going to go on the bigger part. So I'm using the bail. Let's just show you that. I'm using the bail just to bring your earring wires around. Now if you want that little kick out part, what you could do is just pop your flat nose pliers and just do a little bend if you want that sort of thing on there. So there you go. So what you would do now is, actually I'm going to cut where I made that bend. And you can make them whatever length you want to, like so. Now, a couple of things with this is, obviously this is going to be going in your ear. So what you need to make sure, you can use, you know those 4-in-1 emery boards that make your nails shine, and you've got different gradients. What you would need to do is actually sand to make sure that's actually smooth on the bottom. The other thing that you could buy as well, now I'm not sure if I've got it in my drawer, I'll see if I can find it and post a picture, but there's actually, I think it's Beadalon, that sell this little tool that's called a wire rounder, and literally it's quite a small tool. It looks like a pencil, but the end of it has actually got a burr in it. So what you would do is you twist the burr on the end, and it would actually take off any scratchy bits off the bottom. So that really is my hack of doing earring hooks with, if you want to make coloured wires. Okay, you might also want to make sure that the wire you're buying is perhaps nickel free as well, or buy sterling silver from Cooks and Gold. But the difference is with sterling silver is, of course, you're not going to get coloured wire. So anyway, it's another string to your bow. It's worth trying, and yeah, see what you think. But I'm going to love you and leave you now, and yeah, I don't think there's anything else, but if I've missed anything, just let me know, and I will see you all very soon. Take care, and thank you for joining. Bye.